Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Today's webinar is titled What's New in ProfileUnity and FlexApp. I'm Kristen McGargle, Senior Marketing Manager here at Liquidware. Thanks for joining us today. This webinar is being recorded. You will get a link to the recording within one business day, and feel free to review it and share it with a colleague. If you have any questions today, please place them in the Q&A or chat feature, and we're happy to address them as time allows. Today, we have Jason E. Smith, VP of Alliances and Product Marketing with Liquidware, and Matt Boyajian, Senior Solutions Architect and FlexApp Pro Subject Matter Expert with Liquidware. Jason, you want to kick us off?
Yep, thanks, Kristen. I'm always excited to do this one with what's new, because especially when there's been as much as we've added to this solution set in the past year. We typically go back about 18 months, so you'll see a recap of what we put out earlier this year and then late last year, and then we'll focus on the announcement that we just made. Before we do that, we always talk about our entire suite, just to level set, because there's often new people that are attending these. So what does Liquidware do, and what are the solutions or the challenges that it solves? We have digital workspace management solutions that go beyond the DEX category, the digital employee experience category. With that said, we do have very detailed digital employee experience solutions, even recognized by the recent Gartner Magic Quadrant. That's brand new for digital employee experience. And those solutions include Stratosphere UX, literally means user experience. And that solution coined that phrase, user experience, which is directly in line with the DEX term. And it really optimizes the knowledge of what the DEX experience is, giving you that unparalleled access to the deep data on the desktop and the analytics to support the complete life cycle of your digital workspace management enterprise. And then we have Command Control, which complements Stratosphere UX. Stratosphere UX is a near-time, very in-depth solution that's complemented with Command Control with the real-time nature of it. Literally reach out and touch someone. If you're at the PC help desk, this is a great solution to have at your fingertips. It gives you that powerful way to see what's happening at a glance on those machines, seeing all the telemetry there. You get a view of what the equivalent would be if you were sitting at that local PC for Task Manager, and for the services, you can stop and start those. You can rectify many things. You can even roll out scripts and a lot of things without taking over a PC. But that's one of the last lines of proactive stance that you can do, is you can actually reach over and take over someone's PC with a remote control to rectify something as well. It's got some very much innovative features in it that we were first to market with. Fully SaaS, so that means nothing to run on-prem. You can be up and running with hundreds, thousands of users within the hour just by rolling out the agents and leveraging the software as a service infrastructure that's online. And then it has a DVR type feature. It's sort of like watching YouTube. Someone calls the help desk and they say, well, the problem happened about an hour ago. Well, you can literally go back in time and look at the telemetry as it was happening, maybe before they went to lunch or something like that. And that can be used to find that root cause and to rectify the situation immediately, even if it's not currently occurring on that machine. It also has a feature known as Switch. You know, people are logging onto multiple Windows machines to get to their ultimate desktop. They may have a local bring your own device, PC or Mac, and then they also have their PC in the cloud, whether it's virtual or cloud or the new Windows 365. At a glance, you can see all those machines that they're logged onto, and you can switch between those without having to do a lot of time-consuming lookups in there. And we also have protocol mirroring in there. It allows you to compare machines side by side, so you can also find the root cause very quickly. So a lot of innovation has been packed into that real-time remediation. The two solutions that we're speaking about, though, today are at the top of this slide. Application portability through dynamically attached applications. That's FlexApp. It really leads in the space, head and shoulders above the competition in the field. And then the full user and application management solution known as ProfileUnity, which provides comprehensive user and application management. Profile portability, all parts of the profile that really make up the user's persona and with the context-aware attributes in there to react differently depending on where the user's logged on, and depending on what group that they're in, you can make that desktop look very unique. Moves between Windows OS versions and also seamlessly between platforms. Look at the bottom of the screen across all Windows desktops, virtual, cloud, and physical. So you may know of some tools that are built into solution sets from the platform vendors, but very few, if any, really none, go across all your Windows desktops, virtual, cloud, and physical. And that's true for all of our solution sets. You may even see roadmaps from other vendors in the area that's hopefully they'll support persistent desktops one day, or hopefully they'll support physical desktops one day. Well, I'm here to say that we've supported physical desktops even with our application portability. I was looking through our blogs yesterday. 2016 is when we first supported physical desktops with our FlexApp solution. And we've always supported physical desktops with the other sets. All right, so we're going to get straight to what's new today. And I'm so happy to have Matt with me as well. Matt is going to focus on some of the demos that we do today after I show off one of them. But we do a great job presenting, don't we, Matt? So at any time, we'll just go back and forth here.
Usually we have a pretty great report going back and forth, and we're going to be doing that today as we discuss all the new features, add some color, and talk about how these features can benefit you.
Yep. Well, you can even see that Matt gave me the screenshot the other day. His name's up in the corner of the screen. The 6.8.7 you'll see over at the left-hand part of the screen is the newest version of ProfileUnity and FlexApp. Those always come out at the same time from us because they're one architecture. And the licensing for them is a little separate, but mostly always together because they work so seamlessly together. You'll note that if your console doesn't look a lot like this, you need to upgrade. But and it's very easy to do. You'll probably get a reminder that pops up over in the right-hand corner of your console, and it'll walk you through the upgrade process, which is under the admin tab. The circles that you see here are some of our most popular features. I used to have all these as one shade, but I've separated them out in the recent year or two as being what's user environment and application management. And the blue ones are more what we had discussed as user environment, and the green ones more focused on application management. And the reason why I did that is because over time, ProfileUnity truly has become a very strong player in overall application management, complementing many of your other application deployment methods, but also giving you additional solutions to help you deal with specific issues as they arise on a context-aware basis. Let's just walk through some of the popular ones real quick. Privilege application rights management, which includes privilege elevation and application restrictions, those first two green circles we've got there. And then we can manage a variety of applications, whether it be in an Amazon AppStream environment and how those applications come down to that. And then whether it's with our own FlexApp solution or FlexApp One containers, which can be deployed by any means. They can be deployed with this console, but also they can be deployed through Microsoft Intune or Avanti Workspace solutions, or anything that can deploy software. FlexApp One containers are very highly dynamic. And as you'll see a little bit later today, how Citrix has even put in hooks for FlexApp One in both their Citrix DAS and in their CVAD solutions. MSIX, the ability to deploy those types of applications down to the endpoint on a highly aware, context-aware basis. AppV, this particular feature just became very important if you're running AppV. That's because Microsoft, while they have said that the AppV client is going to stay around for the foreseeable future, and the sequencer, the way you package up AppV, the AppV server components will indeed continue to be end of life as of next year. That means you need a deployment mechanism for AppV. And if you're running AVD, you can do that through AppAttach. But for all other desktops, you need a deployment mechanism, and there's not very many around. And ProfileUnity can do this better than a lot of other solutions on the market through a context-aware basis. And like I said, you're about to see some of the other features here that I've circled that help with that. If I skip down to the next line, and put a pin in that. I'm going to come back to how we can help your apps run better. You start to see some of the things for user environment management, shared printers, IP printers, drive mappings, portability settings, making for a portable profile that can work with our profile disk or with Microsoft's FS Logic's profile on disk solution to make for a very robust profile that's portable across OS versions and across platforms. So not just a Microsoft platform, AVD or Windows 365, but also Citrix or VMware or anything else that runs Windows. A portable profile, you get the user gets one profile that stays in sync. If you have multiple profile disks, like from FS Logics or from Profile Disk, keeps them all in sync, and that user's happy. It works on a Delta a data read-write basis where it only comes down with the Delta changes when a user logs on, so it does not really impact login to slow it down because it's only updating profile changes after the first login.
Just to add a couple things to that, Jason. So in 6.8.7, we made a few changes around that. So specifically, when we overhauled the entire ProfileUnity agent and moved it into a new .NET architecture and execution, one of the things we found is that suddenly we could do all these things in parallel that we weren't able to do before because they didn't inhibit the performance of the machine. So in 6.8.7, what you're going to find is on log off, we are now doing those differentials as a parallel execution. So you won't see one or two or three. You're going to see all of them done at the same time. And what's also great is that there's some things that we've done specifically around app data where we said, hey, we noticed there's a lot of performance gains if you split up the app data portability rule into all these different little pieces, because everybody's app data changes during their session, right? So if I'm doing it every single time, that differential doesn't really buy me anything. But if I split up all the directories into each one of their individual areas, then I'm only updating the areas that are getting updated. And then there's some more efficiencies to be gained that way, which I thought was very, very cool. So you're going to see some, if you haven't upgraded to 6.8.7 yet, especially if you're on 6.8.5, 6.8.4, even 6.8.6, you're going to see some massive performance gains in both login and especially in logout. And just to pepper something in there real quick, Jason, we also had a question asked by Michael, and he's asking, at some point in the presentation, can we share whether this version will support Server 2025 and Windows 11 LTSC 2024? So our official support statement on any new operating system is to support it within 90 days of its release. These two are no exception. That means that we are going to have a special release of ProfileUnity 6.8.7 just for them. We are going to be a bit early, so we're not going to hit that 90-day mark just yet. We're actually going to be a bit behind it. What you're going to find is the release will be a R2 release of 6.8.7, and you're going to expect to see that in Q1 of 2025.
Great ads. Thanks, Matt.
My pleasure.
If we pick up there, file associations has been there for a few years. It helps you, again, with application management, as I've shaded that one green, helping you have default file associations. And why that's important is because with all these virtual type of app and modern application technologies popping in, a lot of these that we manage, including our own FlexApp, you may want to change a file association depending on what application has hit the desktop, and that'll allow you to do defaults for that. Profile cleanups in there, so you don't have bloat in folders with multiple versions of profile and keeping them clean. And then registry settings in there. Registry settings, remember when I was talking about MSIX and AppV and even ThinApp that's way down on the bottom line there, registry settings can help with anything you think of, right? With the way an application behaves, run once, dialog boxes that maybe you forgot to suppress when you packaged it up, or anything like that. You can fix up things for applications to help them run better, smoother, and to change their behavior in there. And not only that, but you can do a variety of things with our registry management in there. And you can do it as an administrator. Even if the user is not an administrator, it will run these changes. And in that way, you can actually lock down machines. You can lock down USB read-write access. You can hide the control panel. You can do a variety of things with that feature set alone. And we've got some knowledge base articles out there that can help you lock down PCs in that way. Admin templates, having ProfileUnity run ADMX templates similar, because we can run them oftentimes more efficient and based on our context-aware settings. Folder redirection may seem like a simple feature, but we actually not only redirect, but we harvest the contents of user-authored data areas like My Documents and any other folder in there that you want to harvest the contents of. And that's what helps you migrate users to a new platform or get them off of the local real estate of a PC and get them more into a resilient business continuity disaster recovery position.
So
Inventory is
Jason,
yeah, go ahead.
we've been seeing an awful lot of requests on that lately, especially with the Windows 11 translation. So
Yep.
let me just speak to that for a minute, because a lot of times when people see folder redirection, they just basically assume that it's just saying, hey, I'm going to point to the network, and that's pretty much it. But there's a lot of options within that synchronization engine that make your users' lives easier. In fact, there's about 4 different options that are really worth their weight in gold. The first one is called the sync engine, as Jason just alluded to, which the way it works is it's designed not to impede on the client. So if you have your existing machine, I don't want to be bothered while I'm working and harvesting all this data. So what happens is in the background while you're using your machine, the system will get its data synced from point A to point B. There's all kinds of options in there that you can control. You control the bandwidth. You can skip certain files. So if you don't want to back up MP3s or MOVs because clients have collections of them someplace, you can do that. There's also a copy function that says, hey, I want the entire piece of data in My Documents to be moved on login because I don't want to wait for a synchronization. There's a move option, which says I want to leave no traces behind and I want to clean up the hard drive when I'm done. And then also there's an option called sync only don't redirect, which says I want to synchronize the data but still keep it on the C drive. And it's really a great choice for laptop users who I want to keep my data local. I maybe don't want to commit to something like OneDrive, but I also want to have that data backed up. So if I move to a new system, I can go say, I still have every ounce of data that you've already had on that system. So when Jason was speaking before about different mechanisms for everything, physical, virtual, and cloud, every one of our modules is like that in so many different ways, and folder redirection is a great example of that.
Yep, get you into best practice very, very easily. I will point out while we're looking at that, and Matt spoke about that, we're talking about popular features. Out of the box, don't be intimidated. If you're new to Liquidware and you're new to ProfileUnity, you see these numbers that are red on the screen, and it shows you how many that's showing you how many configurations are under that one feature. In other words, where you don't see a red number, this particular environment does not leverage that feature at all. So use as much or as little as you need there at the bottom, it says. So this particular configuration is using the most popular features and probably using one of the templates that we have out of the box that'll help you go from, yep, you can see it at the top, edit configuration, Windows 10, 11. It helps all those environments coexist across anywhere that the user logged onto. So don't be intimidated by having to come in here and configure things. These things are set up as a template out of the box, and it gives you a starting place moving forward. In other words, a robust profile that's portable. Some folder redirection that gets you into a best practice state of being and so forth.
Yeah, so I've done in the last 15 years well over 1,000 of these deployments. We stopped counting after 1,000 about 7 years ago. And within those deployments, when you utilize the templates that Jason's talking about, 99% of everything you need is going to be in there by default. So it's very rare that I have to go in there and make exceptions or exclusions into portability or any other area. If you want to add things in here and leverage things that you're not currently taking advantage of, like more registry rules or more shortcuts or things like that, by all means do that. But in terms of setting this thing up, this is a very, very easy product to set up. Run through the templates. You'll answer about 5 or 6 questions. It will set up the GPOs for you that are necessary for the installation. It'll ask you for a storage path, and that's pretty much it. So when Jason says that this is easy, he's really underselling it a little bit, because this is a very simple process to set up for any kind of migration that you have.
Yeah. We got a question that came in, and it's about, it is this: are there any options for automating a connection to update apps rather than waiting for logon or reboot? So I'll take a stab, and then Matt, you add to it. So we have the most ways. If you're talking about FlexApp, we have the most ways to bring in an app than any other vendor in the space. We can bring it at boot time, at login time. We can bring it in silently in the background after the user has logged in. So maybe there's some apps that they're not likely to use up front. So it would be great to bring those in and not hold up the login process. We can bring them in on a click to layer basis. So we can put, basically it's a stub icon that sits there on the desktop to any and every application that they would ever need. And it's not really brought into that session until they first double click on it. And when they double click on it, if they're in a server-based computing environment like EVD multi-session, it'll then hit that server for every single user and that will be done. Or if it's an individual, just VDI or a persistent or physical desktop, it will bring that application into the environment really quickly. It's called click to launch or click to layer from us under the vernacular that we have there. And then trigger points. I'll talk about that. The last line of this, I didn't circle it, but in here in the screenshot, you see trigger points. That's based on something that has occurred in the environment. Maybe the user in a hospital moved to another area of the hospital and they hit another Wi-Fi access point. So you knew that they were in the surgery building. So they needed those apps, special apps on the machine at the time. Or in a university setting, a student moved into a lab, all of a sudden apps pop up on their machine based on the context awareness. And the context awareness can be just about anything you can think of. Could be time of day, could for compliance reasons. Maybe the user goes home and they're not supposed to have access to financial apps after a certain hour, or they're not in the office, and so forth. So there's many ways to do that. Matt, you want to add to that?
Yeah, so when it comes to the architecture of FlexApp, what you're discussing in terms of how we update apps was something that we went back and forth with quite a bit. So there are a couple of ways to do it, as Jason mentioned before, in terms of deployment. So you can do FlexApp on boot, FlexApp on login, FlexApp on click. But what you're asking specifically is updating those applications if the user has already logged in. And this is a double-edged sword, because on one hand, it's really nice to not have the user log out to be able to go and update the applications that they're using. And on the other hand, if the application is currently in use, should we go and close the application while it's in use or while the user has or hasn't saved any data? And that's where we start to go with a little bit of slippery slope. So here's how we handled it. So in classic FlexApp DIA, the version that most people are used to, that's based on the ProU console and all that, we require some form of log out in order to refresh the applications. However, FlexApp 1, which Jason's going to talk about a little bit later, does not have that requirement. So FlexApp 1 is our ultra portable method of FlexApp that's really meant for things like mobile machines, mobile laptops, things that are in the field, things like that. But FlexApp 1 can be used anywhere. And essentially what FlexApp 1 does is it takes the FlexApp structure of the agent and the filter driver and the container, which is in a VHDX, and kind of compresses them all together into a single exe. Now, again, you can use this anywhere. So if you want to use it on VDI or physical machines or cloud machines or even AVD, you can do that. To that point, I had a client who said, hey, Matt, I am running a huge Citrix environment, and I'm doing it in one of the largest children's healthcare organizations in the US. And the problem that we have, I'm not going to mention who they are. The problem that we have is that our network is questionable and our storage is questionable. And my department doesn't control that. So we need a way of being able to take applications and putting them directly on the Citrix boxes so the network and the storage is no longer a problem. Can we use FlexApp 1? And the answer is yeah, of course. We don't play favorites. So if this is a feature that you want, if this is a feature that you need, you can use FlexApp 1 for it today, and you can replace applications without making the user log on and log off.
Great. It's great. Thanks, Matt. We're continuing to get questions in, but because I know that, I mean, we have a lot of real estate to cover here for the slides, that I'm going to have to keep moving. We'll get to these questions at the end. We have an answer for both the ones that just came in.
What I can do is I will answer them in the chat as you keep going through the features.
Okay, you might have to work with Kristen, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure you can reply to everybody there.
Let me see what I can do. If I get caught up, we'll take it at the end.
Yeah. Let me run through a few more things on this screen before I move on. Shortcuts help you do things like apply SaaS apps to desktops. So just because you're not putting apps down, you might want shortcuts to Salesforce.com or a variety of different apps on unique desktops. I already touched on a couple of those others, and the things on the left side of the screen help you manage ProfileUnity, build your own filters for context awareness, or changing the portability of what you want to make portable outside the profile. And the inventory and reports, very detailed reports. And all this is RBAC. It's a role-based access, so you can break down any of these features for how they're managed. Kristen, if you'd put those poll questions up. If you're upgrading to Windows 11, have you upgraded yet? And of course, the responses are right there. If you'd select one of those, so we see how far you are on your Windows 11 journey. And the quicker you answer, the quicker we'll move along to the next.
Okay, it looks like we've got about, most people, 63%. You could just log your response, please, and then we'll be able to launch the results. Okay.
So probably maybe about what I would have thought. Well, one that leads is some of our users have moved on to Windows 11, 46%. And then we've got 21% that are ahead of the curve. All their users are already on Windows 11. And by the way, Windows 12 is coming. They say they're going to announce it next year. So if everything applies to Windows 12 too, if you think you're in good shape now, just wait a matter of months. It's like the weather changing in California. Wait a few minutes, it's going to change, and you'll see that Microsoft's going to put out another OS. Are they planning to upgrade by the deadline? 41% hopes to get everything done there, and a few plan to pay for Windows Extended Support. Yep, or one. Yep, that's great. Can we take well, I was going to say a screenshot of that one.
I did
Okay,
take
good.
a screenshot of that. So we're
Like,
good. We do have a second poll question here.
All right.
Regarding planning to use a migration tool. Are you planning to use a migration tool? Yes, no, USMT, Windows Migration Toolkit, or ProfileUnity? Any responses coming in here?
So I have a guess, but I won't taint the
Curious on what your guess is.
Yep.
Okay, good job responding. I think we are hitting the maximum. Let's end poll and share results.
I think my guess was a little bit spot on, that we would see a lot of no's in there. So we do see a lot of ProfileUnities in there as well. That's number 2. And then other people just said they do plan to use, which maybe that's ProfileUnity, or maybe it's something else, like a tool from someone else. User state migration tools from Microsoft. So the no didn't surprise me too much, because that's the one thing when we talk to customers about their Windows 11 or the next OS, what they're thinking, and they're like, we just plan to rip it out and replace, and in that way, I mean, we would really argue that users can suffer a setback there. I mean, it's happened to yourself, even at your home office or at your home. When you switch a machine from one OS to the next, it's a pretty painful process, and you end up as an aggregate with many, many lost hours recovering from that, whether it's installing applications that FlexApp could have been brought back, or whether it's recreating several things in your profile that would make you more efficient, anything from Outlook signatures to anything else there that make things more efficient. So users are going to be more happy and productive. Yeah, when you add it up.
It really does. And just think about all the little things that kind of add up over time, like your Outlook signature and your configuration inside of Office and all the little things that you have set up inside of your machine. And all those things are fine, because really those are an inconvenience. But the real thing that you have to be worried about is any form of intellectual property that is owned by the user or that is owned by the company. So again, we had that conversation earlier about synchronizing data outside of documents, outside of desktop, outside of things like that, you can issue an edict that says, hey, look, you got to copy all your stuff to the network share. And that's fine until it affects the company, until it affects your bottom line. So what we usually find is those customers that have answered no in the past, at some point they're going to run into an issue where they've lost something that they can't get back, something that's imperative, something that is intellectual property of the company. And that's usually when those organizations are going to start looking at something like ProfileUnity, say, you know what, we need to start taking our migration seriously now because it physically affected our bottom line.
Yep. So those are great, and thank you for participating in the poll. The PowerPoint slide that's before us was in the same theme. It is about how we can effectively do this with ProfileUnity. I do have to say there's one piece of errant text here. It says UEM market in the middle there. I was going to do something and put the word poll questions on the slide, and there's my errant text I couldn't find earlier. So ignore that part. But if you look at this, really what happens if you have ProfileUnity in place, especially along with our entire suite, because everything in our suite helps you migrate over, but ProfileUnity does a lot of the heavy lifting. If you look at the left side and focus on legacy Windows desktops, legacy Windows desktops could be a VDI or DAS desktop, and you're moving that user back over to whatever their new desktop is, and that could be physical. So don't just think about it being physical to virtual. Think about it being any desktop. To the far right side, any desktop, Windows desktop. And if you look, ProfileUnity and our entire suite, so you can assess with Stratosphere, you can harvest off profiles and user-authored data with ProfileUnity, and you can manage the ongoing user settings with ProfileUnity as well. And then you can also use command control for real-time remediation to troubleshoot. And if you do that, and now I'm going to answer one of the questions that came in. Can you get into a best state practice? Can you redirect user-authored data from wherever, this is not the exact question, but it answers it. Wherever it is today, user-authored data might be being redirected to a file share. It might be redirected to a OneDrive folder. It might be to anything, right? We can take whatever it is today, basically according to the registry settings, and we can flip that to a new location that's standardized by you, the administrator, where you want it to be. And then that mechanism kicks in to migrate that user-authored data to that new location going forward. It happens, as Matt said, in the background. So that answers that question that we had come in. Matt probably already answered it too. So if you think about it, separate from the base image of whatever the new desktop's going to be, when you have the full user profiles and persona, applications made portable, access to user-authored data, and you have a solution to assess and baseline, you have the ability to stage everything in the cloud except for the desktop that they're going to log on to. And then the user, moving right along to the right-hand side of the screen, all that stuff can come down immediately at first login to the desktop of your choice. Again, the legacy desktop could be anything, virtual, physical, or cloud. To the far right side, anything that it's going to be. So it's important for you to know that we're there for you no matter how you're going to do this, because there's a lot of platform shifts happening in the industry, given what's happened to some of the platform leaders lately and the emergence of AVD and solutions like Nerdio on AVD and others. And then there's a lot of people moving from one of those existing stalwart platforms to one of the other existing long-standing stalwart platforms. So we're there to help at any move along the way, and the ongoing management, of course, as well, is how we do it. So we dub that cloud staging, leveraging cloud storage points, because we can store everything up to blob storage for the user part, and our solutions grease the skids to get you into the new environment.
Hey, Jason, just to add something to that, we added a feature in 6.8.6 that I don't think a lot of customers know about, and we bolstered up again at 6.8.7, which is folder redirection and synchronization does not just apply to user shell folders anymore. Meaning that if you want to use our sync engine with something outside of desktop, documents, music, pictures, video, that kind of thing, we could do with any folder on the C drive. So if you have a custom folder with a bunch of stuff in it that's unique to your organization and your users, and you want to move it from the local share to the network and then use it as your staging point, you can do that now for any folder. in ProfileUnity 686 and 687.
Great add, because that's a powerful new feature there that we have to go outside the shell folders, running in the admin space to be able to pick any of that up. The next few slides I'm going to talk about, I'm going to blast through those because I want to get to what's new in 6.7 real quick. But what we usually do is we remind you what's new lately. Of course, this slide asserts some of the things that we've been doing lately in the industry, leading in areas where we've added integration with AVD, with Citrix. This is where both Microsoft has put development time into supporting extra support for the seamless ability to deploy our applications, and we have a similar thing with Citrix. And we have alliances that have popped up with some of the biggest players in the field, and working with other leaders, such as Microsoft's own profile solution, FSLogix, to run side by side with it, to remediate that, and to give business. I'm answering another question that popped up by saying so, to give you business continuity and disaster recovery. So if you have a profile disk, or that's from us, or FSLogix, and it becomes corrupt, you can automatically have that restored by our profile portability in there. Likewise, on the application layering side, we've had many updates over the past few years. FlexApp 1 goes back now about 3 years to be a highly flexible container across any type of deployment mechanism. Our compatibility continues to grow with the number of apps that we can actually attach to an environment, not install. And the ability to come into an environment and to be packaged once, and to be self-contained with no heavy player, to be very native to where the user looks for it, with no shell application that needs to run in any way or to interfere. Our innovations in on-demand, we innovated that. We were first to market with on-demand applications. We dubbed it click to layer or click to launch. We've got integrated OAuth, so you can take any application and you can add OAuth to it, so you can have the ability to add a security layer to an app that maybe didn't have it, so you can have an authenticated login for an app that, once you make it a FlexApp 1, very easy to do. The automated packaging that we have in FlexApp is unparalleled in the industry. It's literally, look at a list of a folder that has all your setup files in it, set it and forget it over the weekend, come back, and FlexApp's automatically packaged up by using several machines that are running, resetting, and all your packages are ready to go and be tested on a Monday. And it's done all the work for you over the weekend. And that's helping our biggest enterprise customers with hundreds and thousands of applications scale to get implemented. As I mentioned before, the integration, you'll see it in a moment with Citrix Web Studio for both DAS and on-prem, with FlexApp 1 being able to deploy those apps straight from that. And with the recent integration with AVD, the ability to integrate with FlexApp Core, deploy those apps, and the continued innovations that we'll have in the industry. So about a year ago, we had the following things. Again, I'm gonna blow through a couple of these slides really quick so we stay on task. Session isolation for custom folder redirection in there. Gave you the ability to increase your folder redirections in there for multi-session environments. We sped up our log off times, which is important in many environments, so you don't hold the user up before they do the next thing, and of course bug fixes. So 686 was, that was on the ProfileUnity side. On the FlexApp side, there was a lot of updates. I'll run through them real quick because this was November of last year. Offline FlexApps. This gave you the ability to have FlexApps come down to the endpoint. Much like FlexApp 1, the entire FlexApp package can come down, and that is the core FlexApp, the way that we run with the packages, the long way that we've been able to run and bring those and cache those directly down to the endpoint. FlexApp 1 still has its benefits. You can deploy those by any means necessary. FlexApp Core is deployed with only our console or with the AVD console through app attach. Other updates in there, of course, I already mentioned OAuth, and then we had bug fixes in there. We had FlexApp 1 support come into our automated packaging, so it could generate those packages as well. and then continuous updates for packages if you would like them. We can even go so far as to have continuous packaging. You see as the last point there for FlexApp. So if you've got a highly reliable application and you want to continually package and roll out those applications, not always recommended, there's your asterisk, but we can do that. For an example, with something like Chrome, which maybe have been highly reliable. We introduced a little later in March multi-tenant abilities with Microsoft Entra ID, which was formerly known as Azure Active Directory. That gave support for those types of environments for our customers and those looking to implement. Enhanced the security with OAuth integration for multi-user Windows, so that rolled that out as an extra environment that we could do that in. Isolation support for dynamic assignment on multi-user machines with FlexApp 1, something that we had announced prior, but actually went in this release. And then the overall benefits being that we now align with the Zero Trust security model. So even with FlexApp 1 packages that can go offline, of course, going offline and losing control of where those applications can go, you need to be highly secure with those, and that's where the OAuth came in. So here we are at 687, and this is where I'll spend a little bit more time on here, going through what just happened. And this happened November 20th. We were at Microsoft Ignite last month when we launched the general availability of this version. The most newsworthy thing that happened in there was the app attach integration, which we had been under an NDA not to announce until right there at the show. You can, and the week prior to the show, that Microsoft has integrated support directly in AVD. Now, we supported AVD before, to be clear. Windows 365, we support any Windows with FlexApp. This means you can go directly into their control plane and you can assign FlexApps. And this is side by side of their own MSIX technology and their own AppV technology. We had a webinar last week with Jim Moyle, and we discussed this and this integration. So I'd encourage you to find that recording on our website, or we can put a link in the window here in a moment, and you can watch that at your leisure. But it talks more about that, and well, I will show you a demo of it here shortly. So in this release, we also have Windows IoT support. I believe Matt will demonstrate that to you today. And why that's important is there are more and more enterprises that are interested in running the Windows IoT OS version on their thin clients. And when we fully support that with ProfileUnity and FlexApp, we can give you all the benefits that you get in a virtual environment like VDI without the VDI overhead. It's a very powerful way to run, and we call that Flex Direct, bringing down FlexApp applications and the full ProfileUnity attributes of the profile down to even thin clients running the less expensive version of Windows IoT. And then you can blow those out at any time, and if they're reset, everything comes back with ProfileUnity and FlexApp. Matt will be discussing this on a webinar with Tenzig this week, and I'll actually be with LG this week, discussing this as well to some interested audience members for both of those audiences.
And that's, Jason, I don't think we can overstate this enough. This is a massive, massive leap forward for both ProfileUnity and FlexApp, because traditionally we're always looking for ways to save cost and save money. And it just seems that every single organization we talk to, that's number one on their list. How do we save money? How do we reduce cost? How do we reduce overhead? We really love the idea of cloud and VDI. We love the idea of these secure devices, but they're just too expensive. So what if you could do all that with just a thin client? You don't need cloud anymore. You don't need VDI anymore. And again, this isn't going to work for every single use case, but once you see exactly what this is capable of, and especially if you start examining the hardware that exists in modern thin client devices, you're going to start asking the question of, why are we buying desktops and laptops or cloud or VDI for all these users when the majority of them are just office workers and they don't need it? So I'm not talking about this as a replacement for your developer machines or even your engineering machines, but for 80% of the employees in your organization, you can do this for a much, much lower cost.
Absolutely. And we're both excited to be speaking about it this week in front of those audiences. Matt, what's your schedule look like after the top of the hour? I'm already going to make the command decision that we're going to have to go over a few minutes and just letting the audience know, because we've got a couple demos to show, and we're going to run out of time with the Q&A.
I've got time if you do.
All right. Well, we're just letting the audience know that we're going to go. We've got what, about 15 minutes left, and we're going to take all 20 of them. So we'll hurry along though. FlexApp, cloud apps, speed enhancement, and that's some apps that we package up for you ahead of time, right, Matt?
Yes, sir.
And so you can sample those at Wheels directly from the ProfileUnity Management Console. Here's a big one: app volumes to FlexApp conversion. If you are an Omnissa app volumes customer and you are thinking that you're locked into app volumes, that's no longer the case. You can take your dozens or hundreds of applications and you can quickly convert them to FlexApp, and you're no longer tied to those licenses. And it's a very quick conversion process that happens through our FlexApp packaging console. And Matt's going to demonstrate it today, so I'll keep moving. ProfileUnity support for cloud-based scripts is in this version. Enhanced role-based access control, so multi-admins are now aware of another admin in there. It's given some more detailed views into the RBAC. Filters from PowerShell to easily create custom filters with PowerShell commands. FlexApp, click-to-layer file associations are in there. That specifically takes our file association capabilities and extends that to click-to-layer. And the reason why that's important is because click-to-layer apps are not in the environment at boot time. So this has to happen during the user session. So now when you launch a click-to-layer app, it will look at the file associations and assign those accordingly during the user session. Here's an important one: .NET Core 8. See, .NET Core 6 is end of life, so we needed to move along. This is another reason you need to upgrade for security and for your support for .NET Core. And then there were additional enhancements. These are really just the most newsworthy ones. There are a lot of enhancements. There's a lot of technical enhancements beyond this that we don't even have time for today. So the templates that we talked about earlier have been updated. We have improved AD search, faster logoffs, and of course, quality control bug fixes that we always have in each release. Microsoft AVD App Attach Partner. This is something we're very proud of. You know, I've already said it a few times on here. But just to be clear, this is what it looks like. You'll get a demo of it here in just a second. We were the initial reason why they started this whole entire program. Like I said, we show up directly side by side of MSIX App Attach, MSIX as well as AppV in there. So it gives users another way to get their compatibility way up above either MSIX or AppV in there by leveraging FlexApp. This is specifically for an AVD environment, being able to assign those FlexApp containers, and you'll see that in the demo. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and launch this demo and speak to it. If you want to see this demo at any time, you can also find it on our website. It's fresh and new though, just came out here in the last week and a half. So what this does is you go into the ProfileUnity and FlexApp console, which you saw a little bit about today. And there is a configuration step in here in the admin area. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in some information about our AVD environment so we can start to be able to sync up resource group name. Your host pool goes in here, and then the location name that we're showing there. And this is going to set the groundwork to take all the apps that you have in the ProfileUnity Management Console and to ensure that they're synced up with the Azure Virtual Desktop control plane. So the 15 apps that you saw a glance of a moment ago are now all in the Azure control plane, just like that screenshot that you saw a moment ago. We'll re-verify here these 15 apps that are in the ProfileUnity Management control plane. Now we're going to open up the Azure control plane, and you'll see the app attached packages are all in here because they openly synced. And now the administrator of AVD, and here's the benefit, the administrator of AVD has the ability to assign applications without ever leaving Azure. So it gives that ease of use, and in here you could do side-by-side assignments, like I said, with both AppV and with MSIX. They'll all show up in here. So we're going to select user to assign a couple of applications to as remote apps in the first part of this demonstration. And you can do applications, FlexApp applications through AVD as remote apps this way. And then you can also do full-blown desktops. So she'll show the desktops in a minute. But we're going to assign these here remote apps to users first. As you're in the application 7-zip, and the other application that you'll see in here today is Google Chrome, which will pop in for the user. You have your ability to make sure the icons are correct and they're going to show correct. We put the source in here as well for that. In the application identifier, we hit next. We add the other application. And then we're going to log into the remote desktop client as that user that we assign those to. And you'll readily see that as we refresh, that the user has 2 brand new apps that will run, of course, on Windows infrastructure. The main benefit is that they're not tainting the base image of that remote app, machine that's running that remote app server in the background.
And Jason, we've seen a lot of our clients, especially in AVD, have a lot of storage limitations around their machines where they can't necessarily go up a storage tier, or they simply just don't have the space for all the applications they're trying to deploy to the system. This solves that problem in spades.
Yep, so we're going to do the same demo of the same 2 apps. I'll skip forward a little bit. We're going to assign those to a host pool at this part. In the essence of time here, we're going to open up the desktop. Same user, but this time you're going to have a full-blown AVD desktop in this environment, and you'll be able to see those 2 apps that were assigned show up in here. Again, the big benefit is here is you're not creating Windows rot. You're not taking the base image. You're keeping applications separate from your base image. You're getting a compatibility rating that is about 70% higher than your MSIX technology alone. MSIX is good if you have an MSIX package, but once you go converting apps and things like that, that's where it falls down in that area, and that's where ProfileUnity and FlexApp can pick that up. All right, as I figure out how to get out of that, move along to the next couple of slides. We have integration now with a lot of the testing and validation partners that have come forward in recent years. And a lot of this integration has been done on a development level by these players, such as Remo 3, application readiness, and Access IT automation. And they can go so far as to different levels of testing and integration, but just to give you a hint of some of the things that they can do. If you're a large enterprise and you want to ensure not only FlexApp, but maybe you've got some MSIXs, or maybe you've got some AppVs, these platforms can test and validate those packages across different OSs, across different platforms. And in the case of like Remo 3, for example, it can even deploy those through Intune if they're our FlexApp 1 format. We have integrations with the other players that you see there across the bottom, integrations with Microsoft Intune, Workspace 1, and those like Nerdio happen because of their compatibility with certain ecosystems. For example, right now we're working with Nerdio because they can take Azure APIs and they can pull forward that same functionality and work that we did with Microsoft, that you can assign apps for Nerdio. Deployment solutions like Workspace 1 can deploy FlexApp 1 by any means, and that's one of the ways that you can roll that out. Same with Intune. And our integration with Citrix allows you to do that with Citrix Web Studio for both DAS and for CVAD. And videos of that demo are available online, and especially the one for CVAD, and we just put a blog out on that this week. Matt, I'd like you to consider continuing the demo, give a live demo of where we are with the 6.7, as well as the other demos that you were going to do today.
Absolutely. So I planned on doing two. I was going to do a IoT demo and then a FlexApp packaging console conversion of an app volume package. Is that still the plan?
Sounds good.
All right, cool. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to try to get the zoom bar out of my way. And I'm going to jump over here into the ProfileUnity console, and we're going to take a look at something that seems really insignificant, but is massively important when it comes to what we're doing with our IoT creation, which is the filter. So as we go into the filter, we can see that the operating system support includes both Windows 10 IoT as well as Windows 11 IoT. So this is now baked into not only filters, but also core ProfileUnity. So you will find that the templates are set up for Windows IoT. The default portability settings are set up for IoT. All of the things that you need to work with this in your environment are already included with 6.8.7 by default. So this really was not a very big jump for us when it comes to what the product is doing in terms of IoT. Now, you might ask yourself, well, what took you guys so long? Why didn't you support IoT in the past? And the short answer is that Microsoft EULAs didn't let us do it. So even as far back as Windows Embedded, we've always wanted to basically take FlexApp and take ProfileUnity and put them on thin clients to enable much cheaper machines inside of your environment. You can leverage all kinds of cool functions inside of IoT, including things like Horm, Hibernate, Once Resumed Many, and that function can make a thin client into a non-persistent desktop, or if we're talking about a mobile thin client, a non-persistent laptop. So you really can have all the benefits of VDI within these ultra mobile or ultra cheap desktop units. So that's the first thing. You don't have to do anything special to get this. Filter management's built in. If you want to do anything specific to an IoT device, filters are available for you. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually log into my thin client. And in this case, I'm using a 10 zig thin client. One of their higher end models, I'm using their AMD 7100 model. So this has 4 cores, 8 threads. It's equivalent to a decent i5 unit when all said and done. This is not vendor specific, so you can use this across anything you want. You can use LG, 10 zig, Dell, HP. If it runs Windows 11 or Windows 10 IoT, we offer full support with it out of the gate. So in this case, I am using a non-persistent thin client. So this thing has never seen me before. And what I'm going to do is take all of my current stuff that I have, my massive profile, all my application settings, my Flex apps, and just dump them onto this thin client and see how it behaves. So I go and log in, and we see ProfileUnity is showing up, and there's my configuration. And we're going to get a little bit of a black screen as everything's showing up here and up. What's going on here? Well, it's still Windows 11. And Windows 11 is going to ask me things like, especially the first time it's seen me, privacy settings for my device. So location, diagnostic data, inking and typing, tailored experiences, advertising ID. So what's great about this is just like all the other functions of Windows, I can manage this with ProfileUnity. So if I want ProfileUnity to define the privacy settings for my device, that's fine. I can either do it as a series of registry keys, or I can use the administrative templates module and do this through a group policy. So I'm going to click accept here. And as soon as I do that, I get the new Windows 11 desktop. And as you can see, there's a lot of customization that's been going on here. So first of all, I moved the start menu to the left where it belongs. Just a quick jab out there.
Always.
And I've got I've got all my desktop shortcuts the way I like them. I've got my Liquidware background. I've got all the fun stuff that I need. Now, as we start digging around in this, you're not going to see a thin client. You're going to see a very well utilized desktop. But what's crazy about this is that I'm not really using any space on this system. So that's kind of the issue with thin clients, is that they don't have a whole lot of space on that C drive. And just the OS itself is taking up like 17 gigabytes. So if I have huge amounts of data that exist in documents and downloads and huge amounts of FlexApp, I will fill that thing up really quickly. But in this case, I don't care. And I do have all those things. I have gigs and gigs and gigs of data inside of my documents and inside of my desktop. If you go into my registry, you will find massive amounts of customization that I've been really just stacking up over the years. And remember, when it comes to Windows 11 IoT, Microsoft has relaxed some of the requirements on IoT devices that they have not on top of physical devices. So that whole TPM 2.0 module that they're making you do for everything else, well, guess what? Thin clients don't have to do that. And the CPU requirements, memory requirements, and everything else. Well, you might ask, why are they doing that? Because you can pull a lot of stuff out of the thin client to make it lighter. So if I don't need, for example, Copilot, because I've removed it from this system, and I don't need, there are crazy applications in there, the whole OS is faster, and as a result, all those requirements aren't as necessary. But what's great about this is I can still use it as a full desktop. So if I go into places like installed apps, you're going to find huge amounts of applications have been bound to this system. It's my entire FlexApp complement of apps. So everything you see here with a parentheses, FlexApp parentheses, was delivered to the system, and it is not taking space on the disk. But wait a second. Jason was talking earlier about all those really cool features that we have specifically around things like caching. So how exactly does that work if I don't have enough disk space for all the apps, but I still want to invoke caching so my apps are fault tolerant? How do I get the best of both worlds? So here's how it works. Whenever you invoke FlexApp caching, as I use the applications, the blocks utilized by the applications will get streamed down to the C drive. Now, you'd think, based on these applications, if I have an application that's 100 gigabytes in size, all 100 gigabytes of the application would be streamed down based on activity, right? Well, not exactly. What we've been finding is that only 15 to 20% of the application's payload physically gets utilized by the application when it's being used. So if I have, for example, a terabyte of applications, I really only need a couple hundred gigabytes of storage space in order to have caching for FlexApp on all those. So consider what I have here on this thin client, which is I only have about 108 gigs of free space because I have something like 120 gigabyte drive. That's okay because I really can stuff over 500 gigabytes of applications down to the system with FlexApp caching, and they will all work. And the standard FlexApp methodologies still apply here. So all the weird apps that I run, like 7-Zip that has its context associations, and Java because everybody loves Java, and FileZilla with its endless updates, all of these things simply just function because at the end of the day, this is Windows. That's all it is. It's just same old copy of Windows that you're getting used to. But with the new Windows IoT derivatives and EULA, we've really been unshackled. We can do whatever we want. We can really crank this hardware out and utilize it for the things we want to utilize it for, which is a full desktop replacement at a fraction of the cost of a full desktop replacement. So there are no limitations here. This isn't like a ProU Lite or a FlexApp Lite or, well, hey, you get to run this, but this is the equivalent of giving someone an i5 desktop or an i5 laptop. Again, not crazy high end, but it's going to work for most of the users. And with some vendors, they are invoking ultra high end hardware. So Jason mentioned that he's working with LG later this week. Well, guess what? LG has i7 hardware. 10th and 11th generation i7 hardware. So you can get the best of both worlds where you have an ultra secure device, a device that you can literally throw away and you don't have to worry about anything because user authored data is not on it, a device that can be cheaper than its physical counterpart, and a device that we typically use as just an accessing device, we can use as a full machine. So we really think this is a game changer for ProfileUnity and FlexApp, specifically towards addressing the need of making things cheaper for our users long term. And at the same time, when you talk about all the other features Jason was talking about, like the AD features and everything else, this also reduces your reliance on other technologies because you could use ProfileUnity as an AD replacement for GPOs. So if you're in Azure AD and you don't have a good replacement for GPO, guess what? ProfileUnity can do that. And you have access to all the other modules inside of there, regardless of where you're working from. If you're doing this from the cloud, that's fine. If you're doing it on-prem, that's fine. If you're doing a hybrid, that's fine. We don't care. The idea behind this is to support any and all devices. Jason said before, we are Switzerland. We are further embracing that with every step that we take towards the new generation of products. So as you can tell, I'm really, really excited about this. This is a moment I've been waiting for a very long time. But we do have one other thing to talk about which is in addition to supporting IoT devices inside of 687, the other thing that we're doing is we're supporting importing of other applications from other products. So, and one of the biggest ones that we get as soon as Windows 10 figures out what it's doing here, come on, Windows 10, you can do it. There it goes. So the biggest one that we get is usually AppV and MSIX, and we've supported those products for quite a while. But a lot of our customers are saying, hey, look, we weren't crazy about everything that happened with VMware and Omnissa, and we're moving away from app volumes. But I don't want to get rid of all the work that I've done with my app volumes applications. Is there a way that I can bring those into ProfileUnity in an easy way? And the answer, of course, is yes. So I've got a huge collection of app volumes applications. Remember that we don't play favorites here, just even with app volumes. So if you're using VHDX, if you're using VMDK, if you're using VHD, that's fine. All of those things are going to work with this process. Me, I'm a VHD guy, so that's the method that we're going to be using today. So the first thing I need to do is open up my FlexApp packaging console, and I'm going to give it the address of my ProfileUnity console. So it needs to know, where is this package going to be maintained and where is this package going to be essentially assigned from. So I'm going to give it my user ID and my password, and we're going to go log into that. Some of the features Jason was talking about, like rollback and optimization, are now automatically a part of the FPC. So we can guarantee that your systems are going to be as optimized as possible when creating new Flex apps or even importing existing app volumes. So to import an app volumes package, it's really just a 3-step process. Number one, I want to click on the little create option, and I want to click on convert app volumes. This little box comes up and says, please attach the virtual disk containing the app volumes to this machine through vCenter. Now, I know it says vCenter, but if you're using a VHD or one of the brand new VHDXs, that works too. So all you have to do is go into your app volumes. In this case, I'm going to get everyone's perennial favorite, Google Chrome, and I'm just going to double click on the Chrome VHD. Now, when I do that, Windows is going to complain. It says the disk isn't initialized, contains partitions are unrecognizable. That's okay, because remember, they use a custom modified file system inside of their VHDs. So all I have to do is click OK. I'm going to minimize this, and then I'm just going to click OK and convert in the app volume. And FlexApp finds it and says, oh, I see what you're doing here. You've got Google Chrome. So I'm going to grab Google Chrome simply by checking the checkbox. Now, remember, one of the other things that Jason talked about that we have is Flex apps and Flex app ones can be created at the same time. So in this case, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a Flex app and a Flex app one as part of this app volumes import. Now, if I want to push this to the cloud through Amazon S3 or Google Buckets or Azure Blob Storage, that's fine too. But in this case, I'm going to keep it really easy, and I'm going to use my network location. So I'm going to go over here to my network, and I'm going to go to my Flex Apps repository, and I'm going to say, this is when I want to copy my target location to. And I'm going to click convert. So what winds up happening is that this VHD is now going to get converted into the ProfileUnity FlexApp VHDX. And it's cool because you can actually watch this process occurring as it's doing the entire translation. So if I go over here to ProfileUnity, I go over here to my Flex Apps, choose my date modified. Hey, look at that. On 12/10 at 12:09 p.m., there's a brand new Google Chrome. And there everything is. In fact, I was a little bit too slow because it already converted the package for me. And there we go. I've got my package inside of the system. Everything's available for me. Now, remember, if you've got a package in there with the exact same name, it will throw an error and it will say, hey, look, I already converted that package. I can't do it again. So make sure that the name is unique for it and everything will be cut over for you. And don't forget about all those other great Flex app options that you have when you have either a converted package or anything else. We have package editors. We have the ability to edit the metadata. We can extend, we can clone, we can merge, we can set up predictive block caching. And a lot of these are features that are unique to just us. So just because you're standardized on another solution doesn't mean we can't help you out. We are designed to help everyone in all situations. So Jason, I did want to keep this fairly brief because I know we've asked all these folks to stay 10 minutes over, but those were the two big things that I wanted to highlight, and I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thanks. Thanks, Matt. Great demos. And yes, if anybody does have to go ahead and jump, you'll get the recording of this. Just keep in mind. So you can look at that at any time. We do want to look back at the questions to see if anyone has any questions that we didn't address. I do want to say that the recording will be available, like I said, if you have to jump. If you want to test FlexApp 1, we've already done the hard work and we've already got about 9 packages out on the website there for you. You can put in the URL that you see there, info.liquidware.com/FlexApp1, and you'll land right on a page that asks for just your email. And then you'll be able to download and then double click on something like 3D Pinball that you just saw was in Matt's environment, and several other apps in there that you can play with to show that you can truly run a FlexApp 1 package from anywhere. So there's that. The barcode is something that you can, if you want to bookmark that with your phone so you can access it with your PC later, you can do that as well. But the barcode goes to that same URL. Let's look at the questions and see if we've missed anything.
We do have one question that came in. Kurt asked, will there be any compatibility with HP ThinPro OS like Windows Live?
I can speak to that. So HP ThinPro OS is a Linux-based operating system. So we don't currently have any plans to support Linux, and there's a couple good reasons for that. Number one is that Microsoft is working very hard to make a lot of Linux functionality native inside of Windows, and FlexApp is compatible with that. The other thing is that a lot of the FlexApp functionality is superseded by things that already exist inside of Linux. So, for example, you can create, things like a link or a symbolic link over the network to an application. And because that exists, a lot of what FlexApp does in Linux is a little bit redundant. But none of those things exist in Windows, which is why FlexApp is so important there. What I can say is the hardware that HP is standardizing on, which is the HP Thin Client series, can use Windows 10 and 11 IoT, and that can use FlexApp 1, as well as FlexApp, as well as ProfileUnity.
We spoke to LG in that scenario as well as Tenzig, but we've actually spoken to HP as well. They just not yet done the proactive testing, but it's assumed that will work just as well for IoT on HP thin clients.
Yeah, and don't forget, Dell, if you can run IoT on a thin client, you can run FlexApp and ProfileUnity on it as well. We have been unchained.
Good question. I believe we answered the other two when it came to best practices for storing user-authored data and for the ability to take care of resiliency for FSLogix environments. With all these updates that we had into there, and again, we were chock full of updates. We sped through a few of them. You'll get a recording of this, but you'll also see other demonstrations online, like the Citrix CVAD and Citrix DAS environments that can directly assign FlexApp 1 applications without leaving their control plane. That's another huge update that happened this year. So you'll have access to that. If you'll just go to our website, you can see a demo of it or visit YouTube. Matt, any party thoughts or anything before Kristen wraps us up?
We've been busy.
Yep.
This last year has been really, really awesome to be a part of, and seeing all the new features that we're coming up with. But remember, the majority of the things that we're building in our products are not our ideas. They are your ideas. Our customers have come forth with us and said, hey, can we do this with this situation? Or, hey, can we add this new feature? So please use our website, use our feature request form, because our best ideas come from you.
Thanks, Matt. Kristen?
Great point. Thanks so much for joining us today, Matt and Jason. Everyone, thanks for joining us today. And if you want to keep an eye out for the link to the recording, you should see it in your inbox within one business day. And also keep an eye out for January. That's our next webinar. We will be sending out that information shortly, and we're looking forward to seeing you. Have a great holiday season and Happy New Year.
Thanks. Bye.